So we'll notice a couple of different things actually happen here. The first is that we go to our event details tab, but we can also see that the record now has an ID number, which gives us a unique identifier should we need to refer back to this event in the future. You've also got a few additional options across the top here. So the lightning bolt allows us to add a related action to this event, and again we'll take a look at actions a little later on. We've got a delete option. This is permission controlled, so not all users will have the ability to delete records, but if you do, you could delete this record. We've got attachments, so in many cases there'll be additional attachments that we can add to a record, so it may be evidence in photograph or video form, or additional documents that need attaching to a record. We can click on that paperclip and browse, drag and drop our attachments into this record. We can also export the record as PDF as well. Obviously, once we've completed a little bit more detail in here, we can do that. There's also a save and submit button at the top here. Key distinction between those two is that save will allow us to essentially save the progress that we've made on the record so far without submitting it onto the next stage. Submit will, once we've completed all the mandatory fields, actually pass this on to the next step in the process. So key distinction to be aware of there. Okay, so the event details form itself will take a look and it will ask us more specific detail around the kind of event that has occurred here. So obviously we've selected, or we've indicated that an injury has occurred. So the form will now ask us questions relating to injuries. So first of all, obviously if it's an injury, there is a person involved. So we need to understand who that person is. And we start by asking what type of person has been involved. So what is their relationship to the business? Are they an employee, contractor, customer, etc.? And based on what we select here, we may get some additional responses to fill in as well. So we'll select employee for now. And because we've done that, the system is asking for details of who that person is, as well as some details around their employment. Again, if we were to select a different option from here, we might not necessarily get details of the employment, but we still want to know who that person is and some details around them. So I'll fill in some of these details here. Again, you'll notice that the mandatory fields are indicated by that red asterisk at the top there. So was the person treated in an emergency room? If the person was treated in an emergency room, we can capture who provided treatment. If they were treated away from the work site, we can capture details of where that treatment actually took place as well. So you'll see the form is dynamic and it will ask slightly different questions based on the responses that you give to other questions. We capture details of the actual injuries that have occurred. So which part of body has been affected? And these are multi-select as well, so if there are multiple parts of bodies that have been affected, we can capture that detail in here, as well as what kind of injury has been sustained by the affected person in here. Again, multi-select should we need to. Some further information around the affected person as well, so what is their experience in the organisation, how long have they been working in their current role. And we can also capture some details around how we would further categorise this injury in terms of the actual severity of it too. So obviously we've got a few different options in here from which you can select. Yep. Is this event legally reportable? Do we need to report this to our regulators? The information that we do capture here can be updated later on by whoever's triaging or investigating the event. So we're aware that, you know, things may escalate in terms of severity. They can be updated later on. So did the injury result in any restricted work days? If so, how many restricted work days, any additional ones, any date ranges that were captured as part of that. Same for lost work days as well. So if the event resulted in lost work days, we can capture that particular detail in here. Okay, so we'll just take a look at a couple of the other event types as well. So occupational illnesses, if this is an occupational illness event, obviously we'll see some details similar to the injuries. We know that a person's been involved, so we ask what kind of person, who they are. We've still got details around treatment and parts of bodies, as well as a list of illness types in here. Okay, we've also got a slightly different set of subtypes in here as well, so we need to know whether this is a reportable disease or whether it's classified as other within here as well. And we've also got the same questions as before, whether this is legally reportable, whether this resulted in restricted or lost work days as well. And again, if we select yes to either of these, the system will ask us for some additional details around restricted or lost work days incurred as a result of this event. Okay, so for environmental event types, again, we've got a different form that loads if we select that. Our subtypes here relate to whether this event affected air, land, water, or any combination of those three as well. So if it was a chemical spill, for instance, it may only affect land, it may affect land and water, or air, land and water. Obviously, because this is an environmental event, we've got different questions to answer here. So was this event contained or was it uncontained? What kind of or what type of environmental incident this was? Whether it involved highly hazardous chemicals, what materials were involved, where it was released from, whether we're measuring this by weight or volume, and then a free text box to enter our quantity into there, as well as some additional comments. We can capture things like spill start and end time, steps that were taken to contain the spill, steps that were taken to clean up. If this is legally reportable, we need to capture who needs to be or who has been notified about this event. And also if it's internally reportable, again, who has or needs to be notified about this event. Okay, for equipment or property events, we're talking about damage to equipment or property here. We can capture details of the currency and the value of the damage. So obviously we've got US dollars in here, and we enter a numerical value here that relates to that currency. The description of, and we can further categorize here whether that was damage to a loss of vehicle, equipment, building, raw material or finished goods. Okay, security events. So again, we can categorize what kind of security event this was, and we can tick multiple of these as well should we need to. We've got our event subtype as well, which again categorizes at a high level what kind of security event this was. If there was a person involved and we have an idea who that person is, we can capture that detail in here. Whether a weapon was used and whether or not a police report was filed. Now, if a police report was filed, obviously we require some additional detail around that police report. Yeah, exactly. We've got the attachment function here as well. So if there's additional evidence to add to this record, we can use the attachments function at the top to do so. Okay, near misses are pretty straightforward. Obviously, we just want to capture whether this was a potential or what kind of potential event this had the potential to be. And because we've captured details already on that first page, we understand a little bit more about that. So pretty straightforward in terms of our near misses. Yep. Our good catch. Okay, so once we've filled in our event details, down at the bottom here, you'll see you've got the update item button here. If we click this, the system will give us the option to actually add in an additional event type as well. So occasionally we will see events where there are multiple injured people, or there may be a combination of equipment or property damage as well as an injury. What the system allows us to do is actually capture those multiples within the same record. So if there was an additional injured person, we'd select additional injury and fill in details around who that person was and what injuries they had sustained. So there we go, we can see again multiple injuries, different types of events captured within the form. So because we indicated earlier that there were vehicles involved, we've also got report vehicle and vehicle details. Now, report vehicle will capture the details of the nature of the vehicle involvement. So was it work related? What kind of accidents did we have? Was the vehicle in motion? If so, what was that motion? If somebody was hit by the vehicle, who was hit? Details around the weather, visibility, surface condition at the time, as well as lighting conditions. Again, whether or not a police report has been filed relating to this vehicle incident, and details of the law enforcement agency, officer name, badge number, if we've got that detail, and if that's required. Vehicle details is where we capture the specific vehicles that have been involved in this event. So similar to events, we've got the ability to add multiple vehicles where there are multiple vehicles involved. And when we select our first one, we're asked to capture details around what that vehicle is. So we've got makes, models, free text here. Again, a description of the vehicle, registration number if we have that, whether or not it was damaged, who the driver of that vehicle is. Again, you'll notice we've got just the couple of mandatory fields on here around who's driving that vehicle and what kind of vehicle it is. Details of who the owner is as well, and similar to events as we saw before, you can add one and then fill in details around another vehicle. Was there another vehicle involved? Okay, because we also indicated that there were witnesses to this event, we've got our witnesses tab here on the left. And from here we can add one or more witnesses to this event. So obviously the name of the witness, any contact details, and we can also enter a statement into here as well. What a lot of people do is often attach a witness statement. It may be a signed statement, for instance. We can do that using the attachments button at the top there as well. And you may just say, for instance, refer to attachment in the statement box there. And we're ready to submit. Obviously, we can click the submit button